I believe we can talk about two sets of challenges. Some are of technical orders, which definitely should be improved in the coming years. The whole characterization of the effects on the armed conflict process and other types of effects on the ethnic communities prioritize not only the predial issue on the territories, but also all its symbolical and cultural component that even though is present today, it is difficult to assess in terms of evidence and burdens of proof. Then I think we are talking about recognizing the rights of the ethnic and cultural communities. Especially, it should be a more complex version of the territories, mainly a vision that will not standardize them. Some that won't take us to deadlocks that lead us to think that all the indigenous communities have the same vision about territory or that all the Afro descendants do the same, but rather to contextualize what has the territorial historic construction of each community been and the places where they have lived and where unfortunately they were affected by both legal and illegal external players. So I think that is the first order of elements which are more technical. And the second aspect I consider important is that this restitution process can be or cannot become an exercise that helps sort a territory in the Colombian rurality that is essentially messy. The Colombian rurality lacks some fixed criteria to make prevail the land use. When it's agrarian, for cattle, for forest, or is in compliance with the use and customs of the communities. So I think this restitution exercise could be an opportunity for the state and the communities to generate new land use planning that even though they think about what is mutual, they also allow to maintain their own differences, characteristic of each indigenous and Afro-descendant communities. Finally, to talk about what would the alternatives for coexistence in the communities be, well, I think a first exercise that the restitution work is showing us is that it's very important to balance the differential rights of the communities. That sometimes sounds like no sense, but we should aim for any rural inhabitant to have the maximum rights and guarantees, the same as the Afro-descendants in rural communities, to have the same level of rights that, fortunately, the indigenous communities enjoy. Rights that obviously have not been a right gift, but rather it has been a complex historical organization and vindication process. But hopefully, it is the first element this restitution process shows us, and that is imperative to match at the highest levels the community rights. And the second element that might be very important is how do we do so the Colombian multiculturalism and the rights system has a high intercultural component, which seems has disappeared since the '91 Constitution. And today is absolutely necessary because, unfortunately, what we find today on the territories is more and more the emergency tensions among the indigenous, rural, and Afro-descendant communities due to aspiration for the same territories and rights that sometimes overlap in one place. So one of the biggest challenges, hopefully, is to make the communities coexist in the same territory through equal rights, and why not? Maybe think on territorial and intercultural government figures where a maximum of guarantees can be provided, but where a person should not choose its identity on an essential manner, but rather be able to live in the framework of a diverse but at the same time complex one.